Okay, welcome to the June 12th school board meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We made a few adjustments to the agenda, and Alan put new agendas on everybody's seat. Alan, do you want to go over what those adjustments were?
There were just a few changes, but I felt today we needed to make those, so just let me take you down through. You all should have a new agenda in front of you at this point in time. If you look at the agenda, the first change that you'll find on it is under recognition, number 7. What we have done is we have the proposal to rename the middle school athletic field and also the conference room at CEMS Library. I put that earlier because we have a speaker here about the athletic field, and I wanted to be sure we could get that in, and so we will do those as we come to that. You will vote on it in the business meeting itself, but you will hear the presentation beforehand. What you will also see here, I don't think there are any changes there. No, there aren't. If you go down to number 8, the superintendent's report, what you'll see as additions to it is E, use of Hannaford Field for 2007-8, and booster organization, and Keith will present that. And we also have an overview of the Civil Air Patrol, which will be presented by Steve and... Thank you. So that will be done at that point in time, and again, you will vote for it under new business when it comes under there. I think the only other change that you'll find is on the next page. If you look under advisory, I have added a report by Karen Burke on CEF at this point in time. It's K under advisory. So those are the changes that I have for this evening. Plus I do have a couple, because we are right in the hiring season, I do have a couple of new hires that just came through today. We've done the background checks, the criminal records, and all of those things, and so I will be announcing those as well tonight as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Okay. Approval of May school board minutes, and there's 2 sets of minutes in there. I think maybe one was emailed to folks and one was in the packet. Is that? Yes? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Can we do double duty? I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the Tuesday, April 10th school board meeting and the Tuesday, May 22nd business meeting.
Thanks,
As
Trish.
presented. Second.
Thank you, Linda. Any discussion? Changes, omissions? No? All in favor? 6-0. Oh, and I'll just mention that we are missing one member of the board tonight. He had a other obligation. Great. Moving on to comments by student reps. Do we have middle school? Do we have any high school reps here tonight? Yes? Would you like to, would you like to come up and speak?
Okay, well, usually I present with Daly, but Daly graduated on Sunday, so I don't blame him for not being here. So the graduation went really well. There was a huge turnout. All the seats were filled, and there were people standing up everywhere. It was a beautiful day at the fort, for those of you who didn't make it. But for the rest of us, this is the last week of school. We've just got finals. We had a regular day on Monday, but then for the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we all have finals. And so the school recently voted on our students' school board representatives, and the winners of that were Kirsten Brown and Hudson Eakin. They're both juniors this year, and next year they'll be seniors, and they're both really looking forward to representing our school to the school board. And then we've got some students looking forward to summer, and then that's pretty much it. So thank you all.
Thank you, Rosie. Any questions? Nope. Thank you. And is Will here? Hey, Will.
Today, all 8th graders in either geometry or algebra took an end-of-the-year NWEA exam focused on algebra. The results can be compared both locally and nationally, so teachers can compare 7th grade algebra class to, say, one in 9th grade. The Last Dance, as you probably know, was run by the parents and was a great success. Many 8th graders I've spoken to agree that the pre-dance barbecue was a great addition. At the last social, students were able to buy pies and throw them at either Mr. Connolly or Mr. Casey. This fundraiser raised $180 for the MSPA teacher grants. Friday is beach day. Tomorrow, students in grades 4th through 8 will participate in Step Up Day. May 31st was Arts Night. This is a lot of fun and is something we hope to continue in the coming years. All spring sports have come to an end, although many 8th graders are participating in summer basketball and summer soccer. Monday is a half day, and lastly, last Thursday was 8th grade recognition night. Students received their diplomas in class of 2011 t-shirts. Speakers include Mr. Connolly, Mr. Doan, and the Student Council President, Ben Bertman. So thanks a lot, and any questions?
Thank you, Will. Okay. Rosie, will you come back up, please? Can you come over here? We just have a small gift certificate to thank you for your service this year to the school board. We really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Comments from public on non-agenda items. Is there anyone from the public that wants to comment on non-agenda items? No? Okay. Under communication, maybe I'll start. Trish, do you mind if I start with you about girls' tennis?
I just wanted to, or the board, I think, would like to extend its congratulations to the girls' tennis team who won the state championship on Saturday, and also wishing luck telepathically to the soft girls softball team, which is playing as we are meeting right now. Correct? Good luck to them.
Thank you, Trish. Next on the agenda is a letter from the Reading Recovery Center regarding Linda Alfiero, and if you indulge me, I'll read it to you. It says, Dear Mr. Hawkins, it is with pleasure to inform you of Linda Alfiero's reading recovery training status. She has successfully completed a rigorous year of training, and she has completed all the requirements with high professional standards. I have observed her teaching a number of times this year at Ponkov School and at the Westbrook training site. She provided demonstration lessons for her colleagues behind the one-way glass, and she has had the opportunity to observe and critique many lessons behind the one-way glass. Teachers are required to apply theory to their teaching, reflect on the outcome, adjust their teaching, and again apply new theories. This can be very daunting and at times overwhelming. Training requires hundreds of hours beyond the school day. Linda has worked endlessly and many times as a model teacher from which all of us could learn. I hope you will have the opportunity to congratulate Linda on her accomplishments. I am personally glad that she has become part of the main reading recovery team. She will strengthen our efforts to provide literacy for every first grade in Maine. Linda has done an outstanding job implementing reading recovery this year, and I believe she will continue to provide the Cape Elizabeth School Department with excellent reading recovery support. Signed, Wendy Smith. Notifications of resignations and retirements. Alan?
Okay, thank you. I have several notifications of retirements and/or resignations. The first one is Nancy Anger, who is a secretary at Ponkov School. She notes in here that after 30 years, and we'll be talking a lot about 30 years or more tonight, 30 years in the business and corporate world, and the last 10 at Ponkov have been a pleasure. I'll miss the children who fill the halls and the dedicated staff who guide and teach them, but I am very much looking forward to the next phase of my life. The second one is from Tricia Russo. This is a letter. She is an Ed Tech 3 at the high school's life skills class, and she's been accepted in a master's program at Northeastern in speech and language pathology, so she will be leaving to go there as a resignation. My third one is Elizabeth Gone, who is also resigning from this team to move out of state to do some other work in other places. I do have one teacher who is a speech and language teacher. Her name is Laurie Sylvester, and she is leaving at the end of the year, and she's currently looking for a job in another place. And I believe that is all the resignations and retirements that I have at this point in time.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to notification of students elected by high school student body for school board. As you may remember, that this is a new policy that we came up with this year, and the high school has elected 2 members. If I could just read this email, it's from Jeff Shedd. It says, "Hi, Alan. Juniors Hudson Eakins and Kirsten Brown are the 2 newly elected student school board members. We had a school-wide assembly on Friday afternoon with a question and answer session for the 5 candidates. The candidates and the audience took this quite seriously. I was pleased. The two election winners are not previous office holders in any organization." Jeff. So we will be welcoming them to our school board in the fall. Rebecca?
Question.
Yes.
I was hoping they could be up here with us, but it looks like there's not enough room. So if over the summer we could try to consider a way to make them feel more a part of our group.
Did we ask them to come tonight, Jeff? You don't, no. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. We'll incorporate them into the summer. Thank you. We look forward to having them. Okay. Recognition. Proposal for naming the middle school athletic field. Jeff? Is Jeff going to do a piece of that?
I know you have a really long agenda, and I know that in your board packets are a memo that I put together a month or so ago proposing that the baseball field at the middle school be named after Ray Moulton. And Keith Weatherby submitted a letter because he actually knew Ray Moulton and observed him when he was growing up in the Cape Elizabeth community. I suspect everybody's read that memo and knows something of Ray Moulton. I guess what I would like to do is to introduce Jessie Timberlake, who is Ray's sister. And just last week, I think, Jessie actually presented the Ray Moulton Scholar Athlete Awards for about the 7th or 8th year in a row. I haven't actually gone back to count. But they are the most prestigious scholarships the school gives each year, and it's because of Ray's loyalty to Cape Elizabeth High School. So, Jessie Timberlake.
Great.
Hi. I'd just like to add a few things to what Jeff said. Ray and, well, our family grew up in the Cape, and Ray was an amazing athlete and a scholar. He graduated from Cape High, he went on to Dartmouth and became very successful, and he always was very, very grateful for what his Cape community had done for him. Ray lost his left arm when he was 5 years old. He was an amazing athlete, and people still remember his playing baseball, swimming, basketball, you name it. I also wanted to mention that he, in addition to his $15,000 scholarship in perpetuity that he funded just before his death, so it would go on forever, he also was the initial contributor and the impetus for Cape Lights. It was 2 months before his death, and he was asked, did he want to contribute? And he said, I will contribute half if you can find matching donors. And that's how the Cape Lights came to be, I believe. He also contributed to the football field, Bellcrest football field, and his name is on the stone there. He contributed to the Cape Elizabeth Education Foundation. We have a bench at Fort Williams, and he was just an amazing guy and contributed, but quietly, very, very quietly. He never said anything about, I mean, I just found out some of these things that I had never known before. I think this would be an amazing way to honor Ray and to celebrate his life and to give something back to him and his family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be voting on that later this evening, correct?
Yes. I should mention to you as a board, when you do vote on this, is to remember this is a field, and therefore what you'll be doing is approving or disapproving, one way or the other, that possibility, and then it will go before the town council. And I've already informed Michael that it will be coming next, and that will come at the beginning of July. I know Jessie's very concerned about getting it named because she has a large group of family coming here in August, and so we're hoping whatever takes place can take place in that amount of time.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Jess. Next is the proposal for naming the conference room at the middle school library. Steve?
Good evening. The naming of facilities policy was one that had just been undertaken by the school committee and the policy committee as well. I was particularly interested in how this would work out. And I'll read you some information that I shared with Alan so that people at home also know what our middle school thinking is about Rick Madden. Rick Madden is currently on permanent medical leave and will be retiring at the end of this school year. Rick has been a dedicated employee of the Cape Elizabeth School Department for more than 3 decades. He began his career in this community at the high school level as a social studies teacher in 1974. The next year, Rick moved to the middle school, where he has been a fixture until this spring. Rick was the consummate 6th grade teacher, and I can speak to this firsthand as we were team partners for a few years in the late 80s. Several of the units I prized in my classroom are ones Rick had passed on to me. Beginning in 1989, Rick accepted a request to join the middle school guidance program department. Rick redefined that role and assisted our school during the murky transition from being a junior high, a place preparing students for the next step, to a place centered on the lives and the development of teenagers, which was a Rickism. He was a constant champion of focusing on kids and was the backbone behind our advisory program. It would be hard to find as a middle school in the state of Maine, and I would say in several states, that has had an advisory program for the past 22 years. In many cases, they've come and gone, and Rick was certainly the person who kept the life in that program. Well, such features have come and gone in most schools. Rick helped us keep our eye on the crucial balance between the stress of academics and the social-emotional well-being of adolescents. Rick always led by example. He had originally rejected the then principal's request to join the middle school guidance because he did not want to lose contact on a daily basis with students. Rick insisted on being an advisor. While doing so, he kept the evolution of the program moving forward and mentored most of the staff about what an advisory program should do for kids. He also took charge of the daily lunch line so as to dipstick on how each student was doing on any given day. I said, "Where are you going, Rick?" I'd see him going down the hall. He's dipsticking. Okay. Rick Madden knew how to coach parents as well. Of course, it helped that many of his parents were his former students decades ago. "Yes, Mr. Madden" was a phrase you might hear passing by Rick's office. Rick was also a meticulous organizer and user of data. He embraced the tools of technology for communication and providing crucial data about any given student. Rick also served as a student's unofficial calendar as he kept the days of the school year posted on his door. Right after you got past the 90th day, he would start saying 90 days left in the school year or 72 days left in the school year. And some of the staff would go by and shake their heads and say, "Can you believe this guy does this?" And little did the kids or most of the staff know that one of the reasons that he did this was because it caused kids to stop at his door and look inside and see what was going on. So it gave them an opportunity to make eye contact. One cannot think of our school as being a place about kids in the middle without thinking of a balding man with a booming voice, John Denver-style glasses, an easy smile, Oxford shirt with rolled-up sleeves, khaki pants, sneakers, and a distinctive bushy auburn beard. When he came to the SEAF presentation, he wore a tie. I said, "Rick, I have never seen you in one of those." He thought the tie might have been from 1974 when he was at the high school. Likely, I think it was. No person has spent more time at CEMS coaching and helping kids in our advisory setting than Rick Madden. I'm sure some people have spent the same amount of time, but certainly no one has spent more time working with kids in the library conference room than Rick, as that's been his setting for the advisory program for the 11 years that we've had the renovations and reconstruction to the building. It's for these reasons that I respectfully request permission to name that space for the Richard Madden Conference Room. I broached this topic with Rick prior to his permanent medical leave. His first words were typical Madden thoughts. What about the others who've done more for kids here than I have, like Kerry Kimball or Phil Jewett? There's nothing named for them. While I agreed with Rick that there are many others who have served Cape Elizabeth students with equal passion and zeal, I told him I could only do what I thought was right for the staff I currently lead at the school. With a little more convincing, Rick acquiesced and agreed to let me move forward with this request, and I bring this to you tonight. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We'll be voting on that later on as well.
I just have one comment. I'm sure that tie was left over from the high school because Rick recently visited me, and since he taught with my husband when he was at the high school, he brought me a picture of the teachers in the yearbook, and he had that same tie on. Oh, yeah.
It's only been 30-something years, right? Okay. The next recognition is for Brandy LaPointe, election as a National Assembly delegate to the National Association for College Admissions Counseling. If I could just read a brief email. This is from Rennie Donovan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is the Secretary of the Guidance Office.
And Sharon Merrill. It says, hello, Brandy has been elected as a National Assembly delegate to the National Association for College Admission Counseling by the New England Association for College Admission Counseling. She has been a member of the New England Association Conference Planning Committee for 2 years. Brandy will be attending the National Convention in Austin, Texas in September. This is a special accomplishment. So congratulations to Brandy. Next is employees for years of service, and we have quite a list. This is for the year ending June of 2007. For 5 years of service, I probably should read what they've done as well as the names.
Probably, yes.
Okay. Al Cardente for maintenance, Nancy Carroll for Ed Tech 3, Allison Coulter for teacher at high school, Anne Marie Dion for teacher at the middle school, Karen Dow for teacher at Pond Cove, Courtney Farrell for teacher at the high school, Darla Johnson for bus driver, Tom Lazat for teacher at the high school, Elizabeth Mills for Ed Tech 2, Lisa Moles for Ed Tech 3, Eric Nielsen for teacher at the Pond Cove, Ginger Raspiller for High School Achievement Center, Pam Richards for Ed Tech 2, Deborah Sampson for teacher at Pond Cove, Linda Sigmund for teacher at Pond Cove, Evan Solander for the teacher at the middle school, Mort Soul for teacher at high school, Andrea Terrio for Ed Tech 2, Kristen West for Ed Tech 2. For 10 years of service, we have Rick Alexander for custodian, Mike Amelot for custodian, Nancy Angiers for secretary, Paulina Portria for business manager, Dwight Ely for teacher at the high school, Aaron Filio for teacher at middle school, Kathy Hamblin for teacher at the high school, Suzanne Hamilton for teacher at Pond Cove, Ted Jordan for teacher at the high school, Susan Michaud for teacher at Pond Cove, Ben Raymond for teacher at the high school, Roger Rio for teacher at the high school, Charlie Thompson for bus driver, Chris Turner for teacher at middle school, and Carolyn Wisley for Ed Tech 1. Moving on to 15 years, we have Ellen Brady for teacher at Pond Cove, Deb Casey for teacher at middle school, Mary Hart for teacher at high school, Scott Shea for teacher at the high school, Wendy Terrio for Ed Tech 2. Okay, and moving on to 20 years is Shari Gower for Ed Tech 1, Tracy Greenwood for Ed Tech 1, Jean Harmon for secretary, Sally O'Malley for kitchen staff, Claire thank you, Ramsbotham for teacher at the middle school, David Shields for teacher at Pond Cove, Belinda Snell at guidance counselor, and Ren Wilkinson for teacher at Pond Cove. Up to 25 years, we have John Casey for assistant principal. We didn't put that in there, assistant principal at the middle school. Peggy Fogg for community services, Sharon Merrill for guidance counselor. 30 years, we have Judy Gray for bus driver, Susan Safer for speech at Pond Cove. 35 years, we have Mary Beth Benoit as teacher of the middle school. And 40 years, I don't know this person, I think her name's Mary Bruns, administrative assistant in the superintendent's office. And Keith Weatherby for athletic administrator. So just like to say thank you to all those people. I really appreciate all the work they've done.
Kathy, there's one person that was left off the list. She just sent me an email. I asked them to let me know if they had an unusual background, to let me know. And Carly Bean, who was an ed tech before she was a teacher, this was her 10th year, but she doesn't reside in that place on the seniority list because she has only been a teacher for 7 years.
Okay.
But she's worked for Cape Elizabeth for 10, so she'll be added to the list when they're recognized in August.
Okay, well, thank you, Carly. Retirees. That's you and me, I guess. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize our retirees. I see only 2 sitting in our audience. We have several others, and so I'm going to speak about each one of them. But I'll just say a few words before I begin. And probably the best thing I can tell you is, the first time I ever congratulated retirees from a school system was in 1972. And this weekend I talked with that retiree who just is reaching her 103rd birthday. So you know that there's a long way to go. Retirement isn't the end. There's a lot more to look forward to in your life. This evening, what we do is we have gifts for each one of them to remember Cape Elizabeth Schools, to remember their time here, etc. Several of them are not here. I will talk about them briefly, and then we'll make sure they receive their gifts, and then the 2 that are sitting here, we'll make sure they get them presented to them personally. I will also mention that last year was my first year as superintendent here, and unfortunately I was sick at the time of the June meeting, so Mary was the superintendent that night and presented the gifts at that point in time. So this year I get a chance to do this. First we look at Pond Cove School, and the first one on the list is Nancy Ainger. Nancy is completing her 10th year as a secretary in the principal's office at Pond Cove. She is one of the first to get you either on the phone or when you stop by in person. She will be missed, but we wish her well in her retirement. And she did say she's enjoyed what she's done here, but she's looking forward to that retirement. We have a gift for Nancy, and we'll make sure she gets that. The second one is Ren Wilkinson. Ren started teaching at Pond Cove in September of 1987, so he has completed his 20th year with us. He started as a 1st and 2nd grade teacher, but moved to 3rd grade in September of 1988, where he has been ever since. He has served as team leader for a number of years, has become known as something of a computer expert, I know she didn't put geek, among the teachers, and has been a very successful and popular teacher. He'll be missed by staff, students, and parents alike, but we wish him the best in his retirement. And sometimes, even as new as I am as a superintendent here, there are things you remember about them, and one of the things I remember about Ren so clearly is last year, I think near the end of the year, I was over at Pond Cove walking down the hall, and Ren had out on the bulletin board some artwork and poetry that his students did. It was unbelievable to think that it was 3rd graders who had done it. They did some amazing work. Ren isn't here this evening, but we will make sure he gets his gift. Our next one's here. Our next one is Sue Welch. And as Sue knows, I've known her for a long time. We both attended the same college just a few years ago and went on from there. Sue is completing her 38th year as a teacher in Cape Elizabeth. She has taught at several grade levels, starting at Town Hall in 1969, then moving with the 6th graders to the newly opened Cape Elizabeth Middle School in the 1970 school year. After a number of years at the middle school, she moved to Pond Cove in 1977. She had made many contributions, served on numerous committees, and it will be greatly missed. We all wish her well as she moves on to her next, in quotation marks, life adventures, and we heard a little about that from her fellow teachers. Sue, please come up. I want to congratulate you and wish you very well.
Thank you.
Is that process normally they open it? Yes.
Of course, we wanted to open it. She can say a few words first.
Before I do, I can't say much because I have laryngitis. However, I think Mary may be the only one here who knows this history. My first year teaching was in this room. I taught 68 sixth graders with Brian Coulthard and Ruth Austin. We moved them around this space tremendously on the stage that was there at the time and in the cafeteria that was in the basement here. And we had a wonderful time and then moved on to the middle school. So it was a great start and it's a great place to end. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a friend who takes off each piece of scotch tape. I want to do Very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Sue.
Thanks.
And now we'll move to the middle school. Our first recipient, you just heard Steve talk about a few minutes ago. He is not here this evening, but is Rick Madden. Rick was unable to join us tonight. After spending the year 1974-75 teaching social studies at Cape Elizabeth High School, Rick moved to the middle school where he has remained, first as a teacher, and then as a guidance counselor. He has won his ways into the hearts of all who have met him. Later in this meeting, we'll have more about Rick when the school board decides around the proposal to name the Cape Elizabeth Library Conference Room. Another person who left this year is Tom Wilbur. He retired at the end of the first semester in January of '07. He came to teach at the middle school in September of 1982, where he stayed until the end of the '05-06 school year. He spent the first semester of this year on a special project at the high school. And speaking of the high school, now we'll move there. And this is Katie Lisa. Katie has been a social worker at Cape Elizabeth High School since the beginning of the 1992 school year. During her 15 years here, she has earned the respect and admiration of faculty, students, and parents, and I will also add, and this administrator. We hate to lose her, but realize that she has earned the right to spend time doing those things she has put off because she's too busy, including grandchildren, if I'm not mistaken. Katie, we thank you for the 15 years you have given us and wish you happiness and health in your retirement. And I would say also, in my less than 2 years here, what I have seen is Katie is a woman with a magic touch. She affects people in many wonderful ways, and she will be sorely missed. Katie.
I've had a wonderful experience here in Cape Elizabeth and have been privileged to get to know so many people, wonderful families that care and are devoted to their children, and children who have had wonderful opportunities and gifts. And I think you've been a very blessed community. It's been my privilege to be part of that. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
Very Thank you very much, Katie. We also would like to recognize Joan Inman. Joan is not with us this evening either. Joan has had service in Cape Elizabeth Schools as a member of the kitchen staff since September of '87. She's been a dedicated employee, respected and liked by staff and students alike. Actually, she did have to retire earlier this year because of health, but she is sorely missed by the kitchen staff. And we also, the final person that we'll note tonight is Liz Wood. You go to the high school, you'll see Liz Wood around quite often. She is currently the daytime custodian at Cape Elizabeth High School. She started with us in August of 2001 as a member of the kitchen staff. If asked what she would like to be remembered for, I have no doubt that without hesitation, she would say her love of the kids. When she retires at the end of the month, she will be missed, and we will miss her all. And I, again, with Liz, but I remember she also works down at the grocery store. And every time I go into the grocery store to buy some meat at the counter, I always hear about the kids at Cape Elizabeth High School and what they should or shouldn't be doing at that point in time. So we wish her well. We wish all of you the very best. One of the things that I will look for is, one of the things I've learned over the years, people retire. At the time of their retirement, they're usually pretty tired, a little hoarse, and ready for that retirement. And what I find is, if I see them a year later, they look 10 years younger. And if I see them 2 years later, they look 20 years younger. So I wish you the best, and hope you thoroughly enjoy everything you do. And on your 103rd birthday, I'll be sure we celebrate that with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we'll stop for a few minutes
Yes,
and have snacks.
right.
And then we'll come back to the meeting. So if you all join us, we'll have a few snacks to honor our retirees.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that goes to me.
Thank you, Mary, for putting together that lovely interlude with goodies and all.
Well, I had a very competent assistant,
Oh, did you?
Pauline.
Oh, well, thank you, Pauline. I apologize for not including you.
And what would you be doing at 6 o'clock on Monday morning? You and Polly?
I thought it was 10 minutes of 6.
6:55.
6:55. Oh, that's right.
They're laughing at us. I didn't hear them off or anything. We're moving on to the superintendent's report. First of all, we're going to have the report on the 7th and 8th grade student performance on national Spanish and French tests by Susan Dana and Lisa Leonard.
Hi, how are you? I'm going to talk a little bit about the National Spanish exam and give the results. I know it's a long agenda, so I'll try to go quickly. And then Lisa is going to talk about the National French contest. The National Spanish exam is a nationwide, it's called an exam, but it's actually a competition given around national. About 3,000 teachers participate. It's voluntary. The teachers do have to be members of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese, so it's part of the professional organization to which we belong in the middle school and the high school as well. And we had 42 students who took the exam this year. The exam has changed slightly. The format is now an online exam, and it assesses vocabulary, geography, culture, listening. I think there's one other thing which I've forgotten, but it's a much more comprehensive exam. In the past, it was just a written exam. Now they actually have their headphones on, and the listening was fairly extensive. They're listening to actual authentic texts, could be from an advertisement or a radio. So it's a much more difficult exam this year. Our students do take the level 1 exam, but the category is outside experience because our students start their study of language in 3rd grade. So it wouldn't be fair for a student who started in 3rd grade to be taking the contest with someone who's just started their study of Spanish either in the fall of this year or just a year ago. The category is more difficult because since it is outside experience, our students are probably at the lowest level of the outside experience, because outside experience could be a student who maybe lived with a family in Argentina for 3 years. So they've been immersed in the culture. So that's one thing to keep in mind when I go through these. But our students have done very well. And I just would like to read the names of the students and the placement. They also have changed the awarding this year, so I've been trying to read a lot of statistics and data here. I'm trying to, so we can compare the two. But in 8th grade, these are all 8th graders that take the exam. So the 2007 National Spanish exam, Sarah Cooley was first in the state of Maine, and she will receive a gold award. Now it's determined by percentages. So 95th to 99th percentile will receive a gold award. Rebecca Strout is also receive a gold award. She's second in Maine. Will Daly, who was just here earlier, is receiving a gold award. He was 4th in the state of Maine. Will Ballenbach also receiving a gold award, 5th in the state of Maine. Bella Narvaez, 6th in Maine, she's also receiving a gold award, 95th percentile. And Lydia Berman is also receiving a gold award, which would be 7th in Maine. And then just to expedite things, I'm just going to go through, I would like to at least recognize the students. If students placed in the 84th to 94th percentile, they receive a silver award. Ross Sherman is receiving a silver award. Sydney Banks, Joseph Long, Catherine Sullivan, Jack Queenie, Alexia Pappas. And then we also have a number of students who placed in the bronze award category, which is 74th to 84th percentile. Kieran Hanrahan, Rachel Nichols, Kelsey McGuire, Ben Richardson, Lena Castro, Camille Braun, Allie Boyington, Catherine Powell, Alex Diaz, Emily Tainter, Karen Barrett, Rob McDonald, and Emmett Boland. So I would just like to thank the school board, because I feel that this world language program, we've been supported by the community, by the board, and I just appreciate the support that you have given us. I think now I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Hello. I'm going to talk about the National French Contest, not exam. But it is an exam. But that's one of the differences from the Spanish exam. Everything else is very, very similar, except we call it a contest, and we do not give it online. It's done in the classroom after school. But the material is very similar. The French contest was given to the non-FLES group. These are the kids that switch from Spanish to French in 7th grade, so this was their 2nd year, although they have had language since 3rd grade, so that's really important to us because they're already language learners. So this is really their 3rd language, it becomes easier to them, and it's, as a teacher, it's great because they know how to learn. They know how to learn French. So they did very well. I selected 7 students to take the test based on the highest averages, and 2 of them got in the top 20%. Sarah Cummings got 3rd place in the state of Maine. Reed Dowdy got 4th place in the state of Maine. And then we had 4 in the top 50%. We had Keely Sutherland and Kelsey Barton got 6th. These are all in the state of Maine, so I won't keep saying that over again. Sam Spicer and Allison Chase came in 7th place, and then Hannah Wallace came in 11th. So we were really pleased with the results.
Jeez. Very nice. Thank you. That was amazing. Alan, update on consolidation.
Yes. I'm going to try to do this fairly quickly. I know that we need to have a much more conversation about it, more in-depth conversation. What I've been trying to do in the last few days is get the newest of material that is coming out to us. And so the first thing that I've sent to all of you by email, but I also brought copies tonight in case you weren't able to pull it up, is the report from the Maine School Management Association, which talks about the revisions in the law and gives oversight for some of the things that we will be very interested in as the next few months go by. This talks about the move from, you remember the governor originally looked at 26 superintendents in 26 districts. The number has now come to approximately 80. They're not saying exactly 80. It could be more. It could be less. But they now, that is a piece of the puzzle that we now have and understand. It talks about that these districts should have at least 2,500 students unless there are circumstances that justify an exception. And in a couple of minutes I'll talk about the exceptions. It does say that in an exception, a school system must have at least 1,200 students to be a part of that exception. What they talk about is exceptions for under 2,500 people are based on geography, demographics, economics, transportation, population density, or other unique circumstances. And as a result of this, offshore islands and tribal schools must have at least 1,200 students in order to make this happen. It talks about the timeline. The timeline as it was coming down the road was a very, very fast timeline. It is now a very fast timeline instead of very, very fast, so that we still have to take some action and we still have to make some decisions fairly rapidly in the process. And you will see in here by the timeline there are votes that need to be taken within the municipality or between the municipalities if we happen to go that route. It talks about who is engaged in the reorganization planning. And it talks about boards that will eventually no longer be boards if you're in an RSU, but will be an oversight board of that group. But it also talks about how boards could exist if we looked at a alternative. Probably the most important part is the units that may submit an alternative plan. This is the one that a lot of us have had discussions about as we've gone through this process. It talks about some that we just talked about a few minutes ago. It's an offshore island. It can be a school operated by a tribal school committee. It can be a school administrative unit that serves more than 2,500 people. It can be a school administrative unit that serves 1,200 to 2,500 students, where circumstances justify an exemption to the requirement of 2,500 students. It can be a school unit designated by the commissioner as an efficient, high-performing district. And those are probably the most important words in here when we think about Cape Elizabeth. And the last one says a school unit that, after performing due diligence to become part of a unit of 2,500 students, it is unable to acknowledge the goals due to the decisions of nearby administrative districts to participate in a different regional unit. When we look at an efficient, high-performing district, what we're looking for is a district that has at least 3 schools that have been high-performing schools as reported in the May document called the Identification of Higher and Lower Performing Maine Schools, School Profiles and Characteristics. I brought that report tonight for each of you so that you'll have it. This report talks about and explains how they determine what a high-performing district is. And what also goes with that, which I found extremely valuable, is a profile of Cape Elizabeth High School, Cape Elizabeth Middle School, and Cape Elizabeth Pond Cove Elementary School. And so I brought those separately, and when you go through the report, you will see the explanation of how they determine that we are high-performing schools. I've looked at the list today. There are only 2 school districts in the state that have all of their schools performing at the highest levels. One of them is Yarmouth, and the other one is Cape Elizabeth. And so that's a very important piece for us to know. Those are stayed together. That's a very important piece for us to know as we begin to move along with the process. What this board is going to have to think about very carefully is the question of how do we want to go? Where does the town want to go? Where do the citizens of this town want to go, et cetera? I certainly, as superintendent over the last 8 months, have had many people rattling my cage and saying to me, we really want to stay an independent district. What we are going to have to look at is the financial implications for that, et cetera. So earlier today, those stay together as one. So earlier today, what I did is I sent to each of you a list of things that I think we're going to have to take a very close look at. The first one is going to be the fact that there is going to be a meeting done by the governor and by the commissioner in each district in the area, 26 vocational districts. The one that will be for Portland area, or Greater Portland area, will be held at Deering High School. We do not have a final date as yet, but it will be sometime between June 15th and July 15th. And that will be the meeting where we can go and ask questions and get clarification. I've also connected today with a consultant at the Department of Education. Interestingly, a consultant who has a grandchild who will be attending Cape Elizabeth schools next year, which I thought was an interesting combination, who will be coming in to talk with us as well. What we need to know, Pauline and I have looked at the figures. Pauline has spent a lot of time playing with the figures to see what they mean, but we still don't have a clear definition of what the school department, the State Department, is saying about our actual spending and what they're using. But if we look at the figures we have right now that we can work with, we find we are under the guidelines of the EPS in every single one of those, including central office administration, which therefore, again, between this report and with that money, puts us in that category of being considered as an independent school system. One of the pieces that you need to be well aware of, and I am very well aware of, is anybody who gets that exemption, it must be approved by the commissioner. And we have been told that our finances will be carefully monitored prior to giving that permission. So recognizing that this is the second week in June, and recognizing the fact that we've got to move fairly quickly with gathering data, et cetera, I see the job of my office to be gathering that data. And knowing that you people, some of you will be away for a while, some of you will be not available, what I will do is check with each of you to find out how I can get in contact with you, just so I can make sure you are caught up on the data as we gather. Fortunately, we do not have to make final decisions prior to the end of August, so we will certainly gather the data and have it ready to present to you, and then based on how you see it, how we will present it to the town council and to the citizens of Cape Elizabeth. I think the question that is still in my mind anyway, the question we'll need to deal with is, will we do everything we can to become an independent district of less than 2,500 students, or will we be looking at combinations with others? Needless to say, my phone has been fairly busy the last few days, with a lot of superintendents calling me to find out what Cape Elizabeth is looking at doing, asking me whether we would consider gathering with them to take a look at some programs, for instance, transportation, food services, some parts of the special ed programs, particularly our ones that require many teachers and very few students. I'm only gathering information and listening very carefully to what they're all doing, but I have talked with several of them from Freeport down to this area, and just to keep track of what is happening. Knowing that there are many school districts who are jumping very quickly to find partners. Interestingly, our neighbors, closest neighbors, which are Scarborough, Portland, and South Portland, all have over 2,500 students. And so they are not in the same panic situation as some other places are that are less than that 2,500. So I think the way I look at it right now, you may find it different. I want to keep you as involved as possible. Everything you have received in the last 2 days has just been flying into my office and flying out to you as I read it to give you some information about it. If there are guidelines and directions that you want me to take this summer, or things you want me to be very much aware of, I would certainly appreciate hearing those, because this is a major, major change in education in Maine. And we are responsible for coming up with some of that money that will offset the $36 million deficit that the state has. And so, so this is, it is fairly quick. It's the first time I've sat and talked with you where I at least feel like I've got some information to talk with you about without it being spread all over the place, and it gives us some sense of some of the direction. And I do want to, before I stop talking, I do want to take a minute to take the time to thank our legislators in Augusta. I know Cynthia Dill worked diligently to try to manage this process. I know Jane Eberly, who I've known for many years, has worked on it also, and Senator Bromley and I have talked many, many times over the last couple of weeks as these things have gone to vote, and as I have tried to give them information to help them make decisions on what they should vote for or against. I won't guarantee I always made that, but I at least tried to give them the information. So that is basically what I have for an overview report, and I don't know, Kathy, whether you want, if anybody has any thoughts that they want me to be aware of, I would certainly accept those and appreciate them.
Does anybody want to add anything?
Yeah, I have a question. If we are going to be asked to indicate potential partners in August, end of August, the way I see it is we need to, as a group, come to a decision fairly quickly as to whether or not we want to go down that road or not. And we need to perhaps try to think of some way to garner public input into that also. I think if we try to do all this in August, we're going to be in a really difficult situation if we find out that people actually want us to look at partners.
Because the deadline is August 31st.
Right. So I think that we probably need to come up with some mechanism to deal with this a little bit more quickly.
We normally have a workshop the second half of the month, and I know that we don't have one scheduled at this time for this month. But it's a possibility of, if you're thinking about getting the board together to have a discussion about consolidation. And I assume maybe, I shouldn't assume, maybe we'll have additional information at that time.
We should, definitely.
So that's a possibility in terms of us getting together to have that discussion as a board.
Yeah, I will not be here, but I would encourage the board to actually consider doing that and publicize it widely, that this is the sole topic and we'll be looking for input from the community.
Does the rest of the board want to look at maybe having what would have been our workshop later on this month? I don't know what availability people have.
I'm out of town.
You're out of town. How about you?
Just thinking of the deadline, is there a possibility of doing it the latter part of July, or you're saying that is also still way too late? I'm just thinking in terms of us being present.
I think Alan could probably speak to that.
I am concerned that it would be too late, because I think if you were out there talking with superintendents today in districts that are less than 2,500, they are working rapidly to find combinations to work with. And so I think that is a problem that we need to be well aware of.
How about moving it up earlier? Are we locked into the specific, what is it, the fourth Tuesday?
Tuesday.
We're not locked into anything.
I'm gone, but that's okay.
Well, you're gone, but I mean, at least
Yeah.
maybe Trish and I, or
Just a question, I guess a question that it certainly needs to be, the way the legislation works is pretty much all or nothing at this point. Is that correct? We either merge or we don't merge.
Right.
And, there are very few school systems who can even have in their mind the possibility of not merging. And again, I do have to qualify this, as I'm going on the information I have today. When it is reviewed by the Department of Education, there may be a very different picture. I did call Maine School Management yesterday to talk with them to find out, is there format, is there a form I have to fill out? Those types of things, that has not been created yet. So my sense is where we'll get more accurate information, is when the meetings are held, the Deering meeting, when, this area, people will be able to talk about it.
Well, interestingly enough, conceivably, that meeting might not be until July 14th.
That's right. And
The timing is extremely difficult. I mean, if you don't have all your answers until July 14th, then you've got a month. I guess the thing for me, to your point, Rebecca, which is good, is I guess it would be helpful for us not only to have that information, but have a sense from the community what their thoughts are. That would be important.
Yeah. If I may, I think that we need to reconnect with our legislators and ask them to be very aggressive with the Department of Education in our behalf of, I don't think there's going to be a form, especially if there's only 2 schools in the state of Maine that could be considered efficient, high-performing school districts. I think we're going to have to make our own case and present it to the Department of Education, and then we're going to need a very quick ruling. And I think that's where our legislators can be very helpful in facilitating that process. So I think we should do that without waiting for public input, get on that as quickly as possible, and then try to schedule a meeting where people can come together and say as a community, what is it, we can just say hypothetically, if we are approved, do you want to remain independent or do you want to consolidate? And then based on that decision, I think that there'll be some direction that the superintendent can at least work from.
So I will be more than happy. I did send an email to Cynthia today, and I will follow that up tomorrow and see if we can get a meeting set up so that I can get some understanding. I think you all received it too, the email, I can't remember who it came from, where Cynthia had been meeting with the commissioner.
Came from me.
And it came from you, okay. Had met with the commissioner earlier and had met with Hannah Pingree also. Felt she had some promises, asked for those promises on paper.
There is some very strong language in support of Cape Elizabeth being considered a high-performing efficient, but I think we all know that things can change on a dime up there. So the quicker we act on this, the better.
But I think this year we're in good shape. But if I may clarify something, Alan, even if we remain an independent school unit, we are still going to be required to absorb a cut to our administrative budget, our special education budget, and transportation budget, even though we are much below all of the other districts and below the average in spending. If we could get an idea from Pauline as to what that amount of money is, I think that'd be very helpful, because obviously by our budget being so constrained over the past 3 years, we now are in a position where we're going to be asked to cut and we don't have any room to make cuts.
No, you're right. You're very right. And we have looked at some of the figures, but we are not confident that we have the correct figures yet, so we're waiting to hear from the state. But we have looked at those 5% cuts and that
So it's
50% cut and what that will look like. And as I said, right now, from what we have for figures, we are below the EPS average. But you're absolutely right.
Doesn't even
Even though
matter.
we've been very good boys and girls, we will still get cut, just like the big spenders will get cut, so that we have to be well aware of that.
It may be worthwhile just to bring this case up with Cynthia again and see if we can make a case, because it just makes absolutely no, it seems completely illogical for them to try to squeeze more from our...
And a question too, I guess, that if we choose to stand alone, but find that through affiliations with other communities, we are able to lower our, those special ed, administrative, transportation, all those items that we're supposed to cut 5%, are we precluded from doing that?
No. And that's exactly why I've been talking with the other districts, is because there are several districts around us that are over 2,500 who are interested in forming a consortium with other districts and us and Portland and South Portland and Scarborough because of some of those savings that are necessary, and thinking that we could do it. And we have talked, again, specifically about transportation, food services, and some aspects of special education. And so we can do that to help to take that 5% out.
We're actually required to file an alternate plan. So,
Erin, did you want to say something?
When you were talking about the consortium, with some of those other schools, that would only apply to those specific areas that we agree to consolidate in. It would not apply to the educational piece?
Yes, what we would do is we would work with them to do some of these areas, but we would not be combining with them so that we are a combined school system and combined students.
Okay.
Because that opens another whole big question that I don't have answers to because of NCLB. The idea of if you have 2 high schools in a district or a union, and if one of them is scoring low and one is scoring high, can all of the kids move out of that high school into the other high school? And those are questions I still don't have clear answers on yet. So what I've been talking with superintendents at this point is the 4 areas that we've talked about, which includes the central office and then the transportation, food services, and special education.
I'm sorry, just one other thing. I also would just like to comment or thank the citizens that kept themselves informed and were active in advocating for our school district with our representatives and other representatives throughout the state of Maine. They were greatly, they had an impact.
No doubt about it.
Anyone else? Oh, Pauline, I'm sorry. Thank you.
The Commissioner of Education has set 2 meeting dates in this area for informational meetings. They are June 19th at Daring and July 9th in Westbrook.
Thank you, Pauline.
7 p.m.
You said 7 p.m.?
7.
Okay. I don't know, she wasn't on speaker, so I'll just repeat that. The Commissioner of Education has set up 2 meetings. One was June 19th at Deering High School at 7 p.m., and the other one was July 9th at Westbrook High School at 7 p.m. Westbrook something? I think it's the vocational center. Okay. Okay. If you find it, Dom, on your laptop, you can let us know. Next is update on custodial reorganization, and that's Sue Weatherby.
Well, Alan and Pauline and I have spent an enormous amount of time looking at our existing custodial department and reorganizing how we do business. We have created new positions. We have written new job descriptions while trying to maintain just the same number of custodians. And this is how it has happened. We have eliminated the system-wide custodial supervisor. That has been replaced by a head working custodian at the high school and a head working custodian at the Pond Cove Middle School combined. We also have instituted a stipend position for an existing custodian to take care of our inventory control and purchasing. And we also have secured a custodial administrator. That would be me. Through attrition and transfers, we have been able to establish what we're calling a second and third shift, which will be the first floor of the high school. That shift will go from 5 p.m. to 1:30 a.m., and that will allow ample time for us to clean that part of the building that is so busy up until 9 o'clock at night. And some of this has already happened. We have our new head custodians on board, and we will start our second and a half shift on Monday, June 18th. Anything to add, Alan?
Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Sue. Alan, congratulations to the class of 2007.
Yes, I just want to speak briefly about it. It was an amazing graduation day on Sunday. Jeff ordered and got the best weather you could possibly get to be sitting along the ocean. It was, as a matter of fact, several people have asked me why my face is so red. I'm fine. It is just that I got well burned that day, but it was worth every second of it, believe me. The program went very well. Jeff has always had a very well organized and very well planned program. I am going to pass you the actual programs from the graduation. These were designed by Rachel Guthrie at the high school, and the drawing on the front was done by a student, Ashel Gregory, who designed that. The content is very clear, very well defined. There were 2 student speakers who I think did a tremendous job. I think Jeff probably did a little coaching along the way, but it was very well done. One thing that I should mention is the sound system there was just perfect. Last year had some problems in and out, but this year it was perfect. So the singing of the national anthem, the songs that were sung by the chorus with Kristen conducting, the music done by our band, the music done by students there was perfectly heard, as was every speaker. I think the only time we didn't hear it was in the very beginning, and Jeff spoke again, and we heard him from that point on, so it went really well. It was, I thought, a very nice observance. Everyone seemed to have a very good time, and it was an enormous number of people. I couldn't believe it. When I got there at a little after 1, and it was already beginning to fill up with people. And they continued to fill up, and so it went very, very well. So I want to congratulate Jeff. I know this is a major undertaking for him and for Troy. Troy was showing signs of wear and tear by the end of the whole thing, but it went really very well. And large number of staff there who marched in with the students. I think, again, you can be very proud. This is my 3rd graduation here because I came the year I'd been selected as superintendent. And so far, every year we've had it outdoors. And my intention is it will stay outdoors at least as long as I'm here. So we'll keep working at it that way. But I want to thank everyone, and particularly Jeff, for all of the hard work he did to put this together. And I don't know if you had anything.
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple words, too. I was at the graduation, and thank you to Alan for sitting to my left between me and the sun, because that's why I'm not burned and he is. But Jeff and Troy did a fabulous job, and everybody knew where they were supposed to be and where they were supposed to go, and things didn't fall apart as they can oftentimes with large groups of people trying to move around. And I just wanted to say that it was a real pleasure for me to be able to shake the hands of the graduates and congratulate them. I think that was the highlight of my year. So thank you very much for including me, Jeff. Next, use of Hannaford Field, 2007 and 2008, and booster organizations. Keith Weatherby.
I might mention, Alan, that Troy's face looks very similar to yours.
I haven't seen him, but I figured it would.
Hopefully you got this little copy of the schedule of events at Hannaford Field. Maybe they're being passed out now. I originally tried to color code the nighttime events in yellow, but Mr. Shedd, in his infinite wisdom, thought that maybe instead of them being in yellow, which could signify daylight, that maybe I should do them in a darker gray to signify nighttime. And he also said that it would cost less money when we printed them, too. So we appreciate his guidance. You see what I've tried to give you there, not knowing exactly what it is you wanted, but I've given you the schedule of all of the games that will be played on that field this fall, which will involve all of the varsity games in all of our fall activities, field hockey, boys soccer, girls soccer, and football. All of the home games for the varsity will be played on that field. A number of the JV games will be as well, but there will be some instances where I have 2 varsity games on the field, and a JV game might have to be played on another field at that time. But all of the varsity games for all of our fall activities will be played there on Hannaford Field, which, if you haven't noticed yet, is looking very nice down there. I think there should be, Jeff, about in the final preparation, I believe, of the field. I might try to answer any questions you might have as far as these various activities are concerned. If you notice, there is a Friday night on the 21st of September. The reason that field hockey game is not at night is because Yom Kippur begins at sundown on that evening, and that's the same reason that our football game is the day before that, again because of Yom Kippur, and not scheduling any events during that time. The same with Rosh Hashanah earlier in the month. The work with the booster organizations, as far as this is concerned, is work that the extracurricular committee has been dealing with. The present plan is that Pauline is going to set up a special account in which all of the income from the games will go into. The income from those games will go to offset the expenses for security and for the use of the lights. And then from that account, if any monies go to the various booster organizations, that will be determined, or that will come out of that special account, which all the revenue will go to. I think, is there something about that on the agenda tonight? I'm not sure. Again, the extracurricular committee is doing more, will be doing more work as far as that is concerned. Guidelines as far as the use of the field have all been determined. Sue and Community Services, they have a fee schedule that's set up for the use of that field as well. And I will say we are going to need the help of booster organizations to handle things there at nighttime, and if we don't have any outside fence, it'll become extremely difficult down there to handle the crowds that could be coming to various games. And if there is going to be a 4-foot fence right around the field itself, what will happen as far as a larger outside fence that we need actually to protect the field, I'm not sure where that stands right now. That was something that Mike McGovern was dealing with.
Questions, comments for Keith?
I'm guessing the extracurricular, one of the things we looked at in the guidelines, which came from the extracurricular, which was fine, it just said that the scheduling would also be taken into consideration the neighbors.
Yep.
Do we give some type of formal notification that there'll be these contests on those nights, or do we need to do that, or? I don't know, I'm asking.
I have no idea, but we certainly can.
I didn't know how that committee left it, or what, or if we just do it.
Well, I can tell you that the, let's see, the Hannaford Field Committee, it had been soliciting a neighbor from that neighborhood, and I got an email today from Paul McKenney, and he had found somebody who was willing to serve.
Okay.
So I believe that will then, they will now reconvene, and I'm assuming that that is the reason for that person to be involved in that, but that's all I know about that.
Well, I can also say in previous discussions at extracurricular, we talked about this along with Chief Neil Williams. I mean, should it come to large contests and all that, one of the concerns has been parking throughout that neighborhood. And, you know, we've had discussions as far as using temporary cardboard signs for no parking so that their neighborhood is not overrun by people parking along the streets and prohibiting, you know, their use of their own property. As has been established through other guidelines, that there, for the first year, we have set the number to 18, I believe.
Yep.
Night contests, but the night contests are considered anything that starts after, I believe it was 5:15 p.m.
5:45.
5:45. All right. I'm trying to remember from
I might also,
months ago.
I might also add that on days when there are not night games, any school practices on that field will end by 7:30.
So we're trying to, you know, purposely set scheduling on that field to accommodate the neighbors and not be intrusive during home time.
Thanks, I was just curious to know if there was, we had done what we said we would do.
Other questions, comments? No? Thank you. Next is Civil Air Patrol. You've been waiting patiently, helping us unwrap presents and so forth and so on. And is it Bill, you said? Is your name Bill?
No, it's Chris.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Chris,
thank you.
So thank you, Chairman Ray and Superintendent Hawkins, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Connolly and I, let me just preface it by saying that I know Steve Connolly quite well because I'm one of the substitute teachers over at the middle school and also at the high school, so I've got to know the members of the school very, very well over the years. Very basically, what we'd like to do, and we did in fact hand a little briefing to you, so you have a rough idea, we'd like to establish what is called a middle school squadron of the Civil Air Patrol. Let me just quickly tell you who we are. I'll run through this PowerPoint so it's not death by PowerPoint for you. When I first came to Cape Elizabeth about 10 years ago, I got involved with the Civil Air Patrol. I'm a pilot and would continue flying. And one thing that impressed me were the young air cadets that they have. Part of their program is air cadets. I can tell you in a second. And I have never met such a well-organized, polite, well-educated, bright bunch of kids. And I have seen some most amazing transitions with, I shouldn't say kids, but young people who have joined the Civil Air Patrol, have been really almost at the bottom of the educational pile, and have literally turned around because this has given them direction. This is feedback I've got from teachers from other schools. So let me just very quickly get into who we are so you understand what this program is. May I first of all say that we are not recruiters for the Air Force. We're all volunteers, and we do not recruit in any way whatsoever. We're also non-combatant. We do not have guns. Our aircraft are not armed. We do fly Homeland Security, but we're non-combatant. We are the Air Force. We are an official Air Force auxiliary. We're congressionally chartered. We're a non-profit 501(c)(3), or C3, I should say, and we have 64,000 members nationwide. Our three missions, this is key to who we are, three missions are in fact emergency services, aerospace education, which is both internal and external, and our cadet program. Emergency services, the SAR, is search and rescue, disaster relief, and homeland security. And that's more on the adult side, but the cadets do get involved. Of interest to everybody, I think, here in Cape is the fact that the Civil Air Patrol, one of the founders was Guy P. Gannett, who is from Cape, as you know. He was also the owner of the Portland Press Herald and WGME Television. And the first headquarters was established at Fort William from 1941 through 1957. And ironically, I'm the only other wing commander from Cape Elizabeth since Guy P. Gannett. I'll quickly run through this. The age for the cadets is 12 to 21. There are more 26,000 cadets nationwide. We have a 16-step program, which we'll outline a bit later on. It's in that briefing. And one of the interesting things is that, as I say, 6 to 10% of each class entering the military service academies are former Civil Air Patrol cadets. And they're just absolutely primed for that sort of thing, if that's their interest. And another thing is if they do reach the grade of what's called the Billy Mitchell Award, it's one of the awards, they do in fact get an automatic pay increase if they go in as an enlisted. So they jump up in a way. They will be able to participate in, say, in all the national and regional, and in this case, the International Air Cadet Program. Everything that's available to the ordinary cadets that are in the standard program will be available to those in the school program. I just wanted to give you some images and give you some understanding of who some of these people are, the former Civil Air Patrol cadets. One who's missing from there right now, of course, is the new female pilot for the Thunderbirds. She's a former Civil Air Patrol cadet. And I think I'm going to be adding a name one of these days for a Cape Elizabeth young man who, in fact, Joe Doan knows him very, very well. That's Bo Provost, and he lives just across the street here. And Bo, in fact, I took him for one of his first orientation flights. And he soloed through us, then went on to Emory-Riddle, where he got his degree in aviation, was accepted by the Air Force, graduated top of the flying school, and just 2 weeks ago now, he graduated from the F-16 school. He's top of the class, and he's now on his way to Germany as an F-16 pilot, and I think he's going to be up there. One name in the middle there, just very quickly, Shane Osborne. You probably remember the P-3 that was attacked by Chinese MiG, and he made a false landing on an island in the South China Sea. He's a former Civil Air Patrol cadet, and obviously Frank Borman. To give you an idea of who we are, each state has a wing. I represent the main wing. I'm the commander for the main wing. That's that little, as you know, where Maine is up there. We're part of the Northeast region, and then, of course, we're obviously part of the national organization. So the benefits to the school. Basically, it provides a disciplined classroom environment. Now, this would probably be extremely important in Philadelphia, not quite so important here. And the degree would be a lot less here, but it does give direction. We have an awards program, so individuals get recognized. A lot of people who are not great athletes would be able to be recognized through other parts of the training from the Civil Air Patrol. Again, this doesn't really apply in Cape, it certainly doesn't in other parts of the world like Boston, and that is that it does give them the opportunity to say that my gang wears Air Force blue. Teaches patriotism and citizenship, and builds physical fitness. These images are more important than what I'm actually saying, I think. Our core values are the same as the Air Force: integrity, volunteer service, excellence, and respect. Except the Air Force actually doesn't have volunteer service, it's service before self. That's the difference. And also, we're very involved with the anti-drug program called the Drug Demand Reduction Program. And a lot of cadets work in providing some of this material to schools. This is outside of the school program. Everything that the cadets do to remain in a squadron, to be a member, is they do have to have a passing grade, otherwise we can dismiss them from the organization. And school-wise, again, this is in the packet, school principal becomes the chief facilitator, and we'd like to have as many teachers as possible who would be interested in aerospace, particularly those in the science and the technical areas, probably be very excited about becoming involved. And minimum requirements for a squadron, at least one adult. If we have only 8 students that join, it becomes a flight. If it's more than 15, it then becomes a squadron. I'm anticipating we'll have more than 15. And there's a host squadron. The host squadron is in fact at Portland. I'll get into that in a second. They will give you all the support, they provide uniforms. And most importantly for you, because I know as a substitute teacher I had to go through the fingerprinting with the state police as everybody else does, but we're actually one rung up on that. All our people are actually FBI screened, and they have to take cadet protection training as well and pass it. It's very tough, and it's going to be renewed every 2 years. So. The host squadron, which I say is at Portland Jetport, is the 58th Squadron. They will be able to provide the orientation flights, provide some of the uniforms and weekend annual events. The blue uniform that the cadets wear is actually provided by the Air Force, and they get that after they reach a certain point in their training, for obvious reasons. The Air Force don't want to keep giving these out when people don't make it. So that's all provided locally. Now, just these are the pictures I was looking forward to you seeing. This is main wing. We have 7 aircraft, and we're probably going to have an 8th one very soon. We have glass cockpit airplanes. As you can see, they're very, very high tech. And we have 10 passenger vans, and we also now have a very nice former FEMA trailer from Katrina, which is now being converted into a command post and a communications vehicle. But just to give you an idea of what our cadets look like, how sharp they are. I've had cadets turn up with long hair, earrings. I thought, my gosh, what is he doing or she doing here? 2 weeks later, they come back with a haircut, no earrings, and they look terrific. You see them again later at the party, and they've got their earrings back. And we've had a couple of cadets we've had to remind them to take the earrings out. They participate in disaster relief. The bottom picture is actually one of our cadets during Katrina. And there they are on the, not the timing wall, but the, what do they call that now? I've been down there. Some of our cadets, 2 of our aircraft at the top there. It's actually me with one of my air crews. We were down during one of the hurricanes down in Florida, during Hurricane Francis, actually a couple of years back. There's a young cadet, very young cadet, getting an orientation flight in one of our aircraft. And the young lady on the other side actually is getting an orientation flight in one of our gliders. And as I say, we do perform homeland security. It's just a matter of interest. All those wonderful pictures that you saw of, not exactly wonderful, but pictures of Ground Zero were taken actually by our aircraft. We were the only people allowed to fly after September 11th, along with the Air Force and the other services. We were the only other service allowed to fly. And, oops, let me just go back. Sorry, that was an interesting picture for you. Every year, and you put this on TV, every year for the last 5 years, the Worcester Wreath Company and the main wing have laid wreaths at the graves at Arlington Cemetery. This is something we do every single year. It's got tremendous recognition, and cadets really do enjoy participating. So basically, that's who we are. The program brings a tremendous amount, I think, to the youth of today. The aerospace manuals that they'll get when they join are tremendous. And one other thing, just a matter of interest, as far as why aerospace education. Over the last 10, 15 years, the number of aerospace engineers have really diminished. And so right now, we're at a point where those in middle school and high school right now, if they get into engineering, get into aeronautics, are likely to command a very, very high salary because there has been a tremendous attrition of engineers since the space program slowed down. That's ramping back up again. There's going to be a tremendous, tremendous demand. So thank you. That's my presentation. If anybody has any questions.
So I've got a few things to add. First off, when Chris, so I first met Chris as a substitute in the school, and it didn't take me long to learn of this individual's multi-talents, many talents. Chris he subbed for us in the technology department last year for a decent stretch of time, and he's been in probably every classroom that we have. Very interesting conversations with him, found out a little bit about his background. And when I heard about Civil Air Patrol, I said, you know, we definitely, our academics meet the needs of a lot of students out there who said, this is what drives me. Our athletics do the same things. We're really, you know, we're working on the arts. We're trying to find that. Do we have hooks that cause every student in our school to say, this is where I want to be every day and this is why I want to excel? No. Are we working on it? Yes. Do I see the Civil Air Patrol as one of those possibilities? That's my goal. When he was talking with me about it, I was picturing, as Trish could verify, I have a lunch and after school club every day in my office. And these are students who, you know, it's more about trying to work with them around their work habits rather than around their performance in school. Sometimes we don't get to see their performance because their habits override the performance. So my feeling is this is just another opportunity. I mean, if I go up to a student who is really having some issues, maybe some kids just decide to join this because they want to, and they could be from any group of kids in the school. But if I go up to another student and say, hey, you know what? Here's some things that we're trying to accomplish, and I got a little hook for you in the end of this. How about next summer, I get you a ride in a Black Hawk helicopter at Bangor International, or a C-130 refueling plane. We can do that, right? Here we go. Here we go. How about, and all you got to do, a couple of things. You got to work with me on taking care of business, and this is why you want to take care of it, and you got to pass your classes. I would much rather deal with those guys that I have coming to see me on a daily basis for 45 minutes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, half an hour Tuesday, Thursdays, after school 1 hour a day. I would much rather work with them to do this kind of thing and give them opportunities to be these successful citizens and to, let's see, prepare students to become productive citizens, connect with their strengths and passions for learning. Have I reached a passion for these guys yet? Right now their passion is, if we finish this stuff by Thursday, Mr. Connolly says we can go to Old Orchard Beach with our class on Friday. If we finish this by June 18th, Mr. Connolly says we can leave at 10:50, right, Sue? If they don't finish their work by then, they may be with me till June 28th. Whenever they get done is when we're done. I would really rather have a different kind of hook with those guys. We're not beating each other up in the office. We're having an okay time, but there's certainly other ways to get at some kids. And so when we were talking, I just said, this is it. This could be one of those things that we put out there that kids say, I think I'll take a shot at that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
Can we?
What's that?
I just had a question. First of all, I have tremendous respect for the military, and a brother who went to the Naval Academy and many other family members, so my issue is not with this being a branch of the military. And I know that you said you're not a recruiting agency. What I'm trying to visualize is, you've sort of explained how you can use it as a hook. And I'm trying to visualize how over the course of the day or the year this would be integrated into the school year. And then I see images up there of kids in uniforms. Is there a school that they then go to somewhere else over the summer? I'm just not sure I'm really understanding.
Okay. It would be once a week on, let's say, a Wednesday afternoon, 2-hour meeting, possibly 3-hour, depending on how the group wants to work that out. There would be a uniform that is worn. We work on respect values. We work on the educational aspects. We work on continuing their learning, and for instance, the aeronautics and space units that are developed by the Civil Air Patrol also will play into that. Some materials that Chris Turner has from a CEEF grant on aeronautics, with some of the flight simulators that we'll be having in that tech space next year, which is where we'll meet if we get the okay. And so that's one of the reasons that we're coming to you talking about it, because to me it's not the uniform and so forth. To me it's about the civil part. It's being a civil servant, providing for some kids, a great demonstration of service beyond some of the great things that they do around here in the community, whether it's planting shrubs for the land trust or something like that. This takes civil service to a whole different level, whole different altitude.
Yes, well, thank you.
I just wanted to say one more thing, and I guess the other part that I'm not quite comfortable with at this point in time is it sounds as though this might be something where you might see a child struggling, so you sort of go to that child and say, this is where we see you, this will help you, as opposed to the child, like the hook, seeking it. I mean, I'm just wondering how that might be used, how it might be construed by people in our community. I think there's a very fine line between whether or not it might be perceived as a recruitment tool, even if that's not your intention.
Yeah, it might be seen that way, but the recruitment tool is getting them to buy into their education. That's the view I would talk with. But that's the view I would talk about with those folks about is, come on in and see what we're doing and see how we're trying to help some kids out. I'm sure there are other kids in the school who would look at these opportunities and say, that is something I would just love to do. What do I need to do to put myself in that situation? And so we fully intend to have a very broad group of reasons why students are there. There are other students, as I said, it's 3 kids that I'm talking about right now that I wish I'd had this opportunity this year for. So it's not out of 15 that might form a squadron. It's not it's a minority of kids whom I would try to use that as a hook to say, come on, let's look at things, do things a little differently.
In fact, when I was equivalent of middle school, the squadron, the training corps squadron that I eventually joined was actually outside of the school, but when students started coming to school to talk about the air cadets, and I'd not heard about this, I just glommed onto this because I knew this is what I wanted to do. I was passionate about aviation, and I joined, and I discovered it through the others, through word of mouth. That's basically how it works right now. But being in the school, hopefully they'll see others who want to be part of that same group. So it's a snowball.
Yeah, we currently have students at the high school who are involved in Civil Air Patrol who attend meetings in Portland. They're students in grade 6. Actually, when you start 6th grade, it said 12 through 21, but when you start 6th grade, you could join. So it'd be 6th, 7th, 8th graders. And there are middle school branches in Cumberland County, but it's rare to find kids who aren't intimidated about joining a group like that across several communities. So that's why we also thought about what would this look like if we did it here in the middle school. As far as I know, that would be a model for other schools to look at what we're trying to do.
There's, as I said, four other schools in Maine are very interested in starting this. So we would actually be number 1 here, and I think certainly get ball rolling as far as the rest of the state is concerned as well. And I believe Jeff probably knows 2 of the students, Belcher and Wilson, quite a lot. What I rather like is when I'm actually over at the high school, they see me, they want to attention and say, good morning, sir, as opposed to what you can get, which is just basically ignore. But they're very, very respectful, and I think Jeff has probably seen that as well.
One more question?
Sort of to Karen's point, this will be added to sort of as another extracurricular offering?
It would be
open to any student?
Yes, it would be added as an extracurricular, but it wouldn't have a cost to the school system because I would do this with Chris, and there's no co-curricular fee to be assigned to that. If another staff member wanted to join with me, we'd be providing the space at the school, but I would let that person know we're not talking about co-curriculars. This isn't on my list that you see here tonight.
And it would run for the, once they join, it runs for the school year. If they find that it doesn't work for them, then they leave.
Yes, if it doesn't work, right, exactly. One of the other things about this is it's actually self-perpetuating. We have the students from the high school who would have volunteered to come in and help with the middle school. They would basically train the new air cadets sort of at level 1. And then once those cadets have been trained at that level 1, they will actually teach the next group to come in at level 1 while they're training at level 2. And I would be around, and also we have some other volunteers who can come in to help, because right now it's a blank sheet of paper. So we need to build up on that and bring in the experience of those who are already participating to get the ball rolling. And then the way it works, and the way it certainly works in Portland, is that the cadets basically run the program themselves, and the officers basically are there to really supervise and really keep them on track. That's really the job, and bring in any additional information for them. But the joy of this is that you've got cadets who are teaching cadets, and the best way to learn is by teaching. And they do a tremendous job doing that, and it shows throughout their academics as well.
I think we're also taking an area that is being, the aviation that's not being, kids aren't coming out of schools looking for those kinds of careers beyond military, anything like that. And certainly we have a need for those kinds of jobs as well. I think it spurs on the math and science learning for those students.
We're going to have an opportunity. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Just quickly, I just want to clarify, because I'm been long associated with a similar type of organization. Accessibility, boys and girls.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
All students.
Yes.
Girls have the same opportunities as boys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
No exceptions.
Absolutely no exception.
As my support.
One other thing I will just quickly add that impressed me with my old squadron of Portland was that we had a tremendous mix of boys and girls from very high society homes in very wealthy families. At the same time, I had cadets who one particular night didn't have a home to go to. But when they're in uniform together, they all learn from each other, and they're all equal when they're in uniform. That really impressed me. And so everybody gained from both ends as well.
Rebecca? Yeah, so I have a question. Are we being asked to approve this?
Yes, it's under our new business. It's 10 something. Hold on. 10J. It's under a 10J new business.
Okay, so we can have a chance to make comments at that time?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we go on to unfinished business and the policies, Trish, I just wanted to ask the board, I think we need to get together in August for preparation for the school year. And I was wondering, since I have most of us here, if anybody has some idea of their availability or lack thereof. I'm thinking of the 4 Tuesdays in August, being August 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th, and I recognize we might not be able to get everybody there. And I know people are on vacations and so forth, but I just was wondering, okay, why don't we go with this? Is anybody available August 7th? By show of hands? You don't have your calendar? August 7th?
Tuesday, I can do August 7th.
Yes? Yes, no. Yes, no. Kind of don't know.
Prefer to do it later on.
Later on, okay?
Why is it so early?
No, I'm just asking. I'm thinking 4 Tuesdays in August. I'm trying to find a Tuesday that most of us are available. All right, how about the 14th?
I can do that.
Rebecca, do you know? How about the 21st?
Maybe do that.
Maybe.
I have no school from the 20th to the 27th, and I don't know
Okay.
what I'm going to do with that magnificent period of free time.
You can't come, Mary?
I'll be away then. But that doesn't matter.
Well, that's the end of that. Rebecca, do you know? You're not sure?
I know I have lots of visitors in August, so I think you guys are just going to have to
Linda?
pick a day.
You know what your...
I'll be around the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Karen, do you know what the 21st looks like for you?
That's fine.
Okay. Shall we preliminarily say the 21st? Does that work, Alan? Oh, Alan, will you be around?
I will.
Okay. Geez, I forgot to ask one of the most important participants. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry to butt in on you, Trish.
Is it possible to take the vote yet, since we're moving into the business section, since we have some people waiting?
Yes.
Yep. I can wait on the policies.
Okay. Do you want to, what are your...
On the two naming things. I think it's
That's fine.
been
B and C?
waiting so patiently. Yeah.
Yep, that's fine. We'll go to new business B, consideration of proposal for naming the conference room at the middle school library. Is there a motion?
I move that the middle school library be named in recognition and honor of
Rick Madden.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second? Trish? Discussion? Open discussion?
Is it the middle school library or the middle school common?
Middle school library conference room. Sorry.
Library conference room, okay.
I just have one request, that in addition to just the naming, that we have some sort of recognition, description to really commemorate what he has done for the school. So there's future generations will know why it was named that.
Is there a plan for a plaque, Alan, or do you know how that's going to work? Do we?
You'd have to check with Steve. I would assume there's some thinking about something in the library, a plaque, a picture, a
Write up something?
Rebecca makes a very good point. I can't tell you how many buildings I've walked through in my lifetime that have a name on it when I have simply no clue
Sure.
as to who that person was.
A plaque outside the door, over the doorway, indicating the name of the room, and then inside the room, on the wall, a framed picture with of Rick, and then an explanation about
Right.
some of the pieces. So,
Is that all right? That'd be great, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed, 6-0 in favor, Mary. And C, consideration of proposal for naming middle school athletic field. Is there a motion?
I move, Kevin, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Trish.
I move that we name the middle school athletic field as suggested after Ray Moulton.
Second.
Thank you, Linda. Discussion?
If possible, I'd like the same thing done for the field. I know it's a lot more of a challenge, but, I mean, maybe just somewhere in the buildings we could have, it doesn't need to be out by the field, but
Right.
somewhere there will be a reference as to why Mr. Moulton's name is, the field is named after Mr. Moulton.
Can that be? Yes, thank you.
I didn't hear everything you said, but I think it was along the same lines as what... I think the thought is to include a plaque probably on a stone right at the field. And in August, if it works out with the town council with the timing of this, to have sort of a celebration and a commemoration. But that would be a permanent plaque right at the field, and I would assume, and Jesse and I would have to talk about the details of that, but I would assume it would have some basic biographical information about Ray, so that kids who play on the field in the future, the field that Ray used to play on when he was a child, will know what that's all about.
Good, great, thank you. Other discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Thank you. All right, okay, to back up to the, oh, I'm sorry, thank you, Mary.
Might as well.
Thank you for reminding me. We're going to skip over to 10, oh, Kathy, where is it? I had it a minute ago. 10J, thank you. Consideration of proposal for Civil Air Patrol unit at the middle school. Is there a motion?
Enough discussion. I propose, I don't know what I'm proposing. I guess I propose that we approve the addition of a Civil Air Patrol unit as an extracurricular offering at the middle school.
Thank you, Trish. Is there a second?
For the sake of conversation,
Second for the
I'll say.
conversation. That's sort of what I was...
Kevin, thank you. Okay, who wants to be the first to converse?
Can I just interrupt for 1 minute? I do have your packet that we just got today, and so you did not get it in your set, and it is what he referred to as the packet of information about this group, and I don't know if you want it now or later, but I do have it here. Again, unfortunately, we just got it today, so I couldn't get it to you prior to this meeting.
I would like to comment that I would be much more comfortable voting in support or not in support if I had a better understanding of what I was voting for. And I don't really feel that I have the information that I need to make a good decision at this point in time.
I would say for all concerned that generally I would support the organization. I am familiar with it. Unfortunately, I was not aware that part of their mission now includes Homeland Security, and that leaves me very wary, and I would like a lot more time than tonight to think about the Homeland Security implications.
Okay. Trish? Trish, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm
You're looking at me, I know you're, the other added aspect is that I think it would be nice if the public had more of an opportunity to speak on this than maybe than they had this time. I'm not sure many people knew that this was going to be discussed tonight, and I know I'd like to hear from the public if they have an opinion on this, since I believe this is the first of its kind for our district. I want to be very careful about how we move forward.
Thank you, Rebecca. Trish? Yes.
Same, I guess my other question might be, again, before supporting it, I think it has very, some benefits to students. I guess my question would be, if, even though their intent is not to recruit, if we let the Civil Air Patrol here, do then other branches of the military who have similar things,
I don't believe that the Civil Air Patrol is actually a branch of the military.
It's a non-profit corporation funded by Congress.
You know, it's
the funding comes from them, but we are not, as I said, we're not recruiters as part of this program. It's not the same as AMRC or ROTC.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about that. It's the Homeland Security thing that frankly has me weirded out. I mean, other than that, I tend to look at the Air Cadets as almost the same thing as a Boy Scout program, except they are forward-thinking enough to allow girls and to allow girls equal opportunities. So from that perspective, I don't have an issue. I would ask a question of both Steve and the Colonel. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Whether or not we actually have to take this on as an extracurricular offering, or that we allow in the way I don't know if we still do it, but Cub Scout Pack 90, not the den, the pack, used to meet weekly in the cafeteria. Can we simply not, I say used to, so we don't have to scramble for calendars. Could I finish before we start talking about it? Thank you. We used to give certain organizations the opportunity to use a building for such meetings, and they were never considered extracurricular activities. Whether or not we still do it, I don't know, and you can now consult on that. Excuse me? I don't know whether or not we still do it, but for many, many years, we allowed the Cub Scouts to use the cafeteria for PAC meetings, and I'm wondering if we could not reach a similar accommodation for something like the Air Cadet program, as opposed, we have never offered Cub Scouts as an extracurricular activity, and I'm not sure that we would have to offer the Air Cadets as an extracurricular activity.
Sue, did you want to address that?
We do allow all these organizations to use our buildings to their limit possible. As long as it's during regular custodial hours, there's no fee.
Thank you. Other discussion?
I did want to thank you for that wonderful presentation, because I do think that was helpful to introduce us to what you are proposing.
Well, we do have a motion on the table, unless you are wanting to withdraw the motion.
Well, I guess I have another question before I withdraw it. Our students can't Cape Elizabeth students could participate in it if it was like the Boy Scouts. We don't approve the Boy Scouts.
That's
So I'm
right.
wondering,
That's my
do we
point.
even really, do we need to have school board approval?
I don't
We
think so.
do if it's an extracurricular, but
The real difference is that in this particular case, City College would have to be the squadron commander, and the school teachers themselves would be members of the police department. That's the difference. The outside squadron would have myself would be there to get it started. We run within the school. That's the difference between Boy Scouts.
okay.
And also, if I may just answer Kevin's question about homeland security, we're really two branches. There's the cadet program. They don't deal with homeland security. We do pilots who fly on missions to the Navy, escort the ships up the Canada River. No cadets are involved. They're not involved in anything like that at all.
Thank you.
So would the teachers have to be involved as a teacher through your program, or?
Yes, it is. Teacher program for the teachers. Educators, that's the whole point of it. Get assistance from outside of us, but it's not like Boy Scouts where they come in and use facilities. This is actually for the school.
But, well, the Boy Scouts and all those organizations have their own type of training programs that leaders and, I mean,
I guess sensitivity or timing, I mean, we've heard some questions that we want other information. If we voted on this in August, does that hold you up, or do you need an answer now? And last question, you mentioned teachers. Do you have teachers on board?
Well, I have a teacher who I'm going to talk with about this, who may be interested in doing this. So, I don't know. It really, what I was looking at was, can we get this through the board and then draw it out staff and so forth. I was going to wait and see. I happened to mention one teacher in science who said,
Will the students who choose to participate as cadets be on school grounds in their uniforms?
If I withdraw the motion, we don't vote.
If you withdraw, if she withdraws and she has to be
Or
seconded.
you can have your vote to deny it this time and have it tabled, whichever way you want.
I think, okay, I personally would like to think about it. That's one of my comments. So I guess officially, with Robert's Rules of Order, I would like to withdraw my motion and then make a motion that we table this decision?
I'll second that.
Who seconded it in the beginning?
Kevin did, I think, to put it out in conversation.
Is that okay with you? Okay. So it's off the table.
And you are making a motion to table it?
Yes, which means we can revisit it.
That's right.
I want to revisit it,
Yeah.
because I don't want to keep them hanging, but I personally would like to mull it over. I'm kind of getting a sense that other people might like to do
And
that.
Linda, you seconded the table?
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion about tabling it? All in favor of tabling it to another time? Okay, 6-0. Okay. Now, can we back up?
Okay.
All right. Is consideration of policies for second reading. Trish?
Policies for second reading, KHB advertising, JGAA, which is, I should go in order, JJIA Athletic Steering Committee, JJJ-R1 Athletic Substance Abuse, JGAA Assignment of Students to Classes. Those were all presented for first reading in May, and there were no issues or comments raised at that point. The last one that we're presenting for second reading ED, which is Materials Resource Management. We had had a first reading, I think, back in March or April. We had recommended it for deletion. We are putting it back on second reading now because it has been folded into DID, which is inventory, which you will see for a first reading later in the meeting. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve all of the policies and the actions that we've read, the policy committee has recommended on those policies that I just mentioned.
Second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Discussion? Questions? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? 6-0 in favor. Okay. Consideration of future direction plan goals. Trish?
Yes, first I just wanted to thank the administrators, the teachers, the faculty, and the staff who responded to our request for feedback on the goals and objectives that we had sent out. What you see before you tonight reflects comments that we received, feedback, discussions, and thank you to the other board members also for providing feedback at the workshop last month. So I would like to make a motion that we adopt this sort of draft for goals and objectives for the sake of getting started, getting the action committee started.
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Excuse me. Any discussion? Comments? Questions? No? All in favor? 6-0. Thank you very much, Trish, for all the work you did on that. It was a lot of work for one page worth of words. Okay. Alan?
Yes.
Consideration of superintendent's nomination of new teachers and guidance counselor.
Okay, thank you very much. As you know, as the year draws to a close, we're trying to fill not a lot of positions, some positions. I have really pushed to get these done so that as many of them could be presented tonight instead of having to do it during the summer. I still will have a few positions that will have to be done. But I have a teaching position from Jeff at the high school, and then today I received the guidance position from Steve. So the first one I'd like to take up is the 4/5 French-Spanish position. Just for clarification, in the past, one of the teachers who is currently on staff was the 4/5 person, but when a person left this year, she was moved to a full-time person, so we advertised again for a 4/5. Had some excellent candidates, a bit nervous about whether we could find somebody who would do the 4/5 position. This person, who has extremely high recommendations, did agree to take the position as a 4/5 person. As you can see, her name is Laura Tripp. She's a Bachelor of Arts in French. She's a minor in Spanish, graduate of Rollins College in 1980, master's degree in French at Emory University in 82. She has been teaching at Freeport most recently, and we had some extremely high recommendations for her from Freeport and the work she has done up there. So I am presenting her name for a 4/5 position at our high school beginning on September 1st, 2007.
Do you want us to take these individually?
Yes, you probably
Okay.
should, so I can get an individual vote for each one.
All right. Is there a motion on this?
I move that we approve the superintendent's nomination for the 4/5 Spanish-French position at the high school, Laura Tripp.
Thank you. Is there a second? Trish? Sorry. Is there any discussion? No? All in favor? 6-0.
Oh. I'll read this one with you since I'm short one.
Okay.
The second position is for guidance counselor at Cape Elizabeth Middle School. Again, we were very pleased to have a large number of applications. They went through them and selected 5 candidates, had 3 candidates who scored very, very high. After checking background, et cetera, the nomination was made of Julie Chandler to become the guidance counselor there. If you look at her recommendation, she has been at Auburn Middle School and comes very highly recommended by, I think you told me, is the principal up there from Cape Elizabeth? Is from Cape Elizabeth, okay. And so you... Okay. So we had talked with several people up there. She had been at Cumberland before that, and then with the Greater Portland Counseling Center. I talked with her yesterday. I should mention, too, in this process, we, as you know, do check the fingerprinting through the state. We also do a background check, a criminal background check, before we hire any of them, and those have been done on each of these candidates. So I am recommending Julie Chandler for guidance counselor at Cape Elizabeth Middle School. Oh, I have an extra one here.
That's all
I
right.
have several extra ones here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Great. Did you get one?
No.
They didn't go that way.
That's what-
Maybe I have to just give them a minute to look that over. In case there's any questions. Yes.
I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation to hire Julie Chandler for the guidance counselor position at the middle school.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kevin. Discussion? Everybody ready to vote? Yes. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Do you have any more, Alan?
No, that's the
That's
only.
it.
I should mention that we are in the process of finalizing hiring a technology assistant for Gary because of one who had left to go to Bowdoin. We do have a candidate. We are doing the background checks now, and so that will be done soon. But because they're an hourly salary, I don't have to have them approved by the board anyway. So I'll send that information on to you as soon as I have it.
Kathy?
Yes.
I just discovered an agenda adjustment that needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
Traditionally, at our June business meeting, we authorize the superintendent to complete hiring arrangements over the summer. Is it? I can't find it.
I think it's
The last.
Oh,
M,
okay.
Wait, the last item.
That's okay. I couldn't find something either. It must be one of those nights, right? Linda, consideration of job descriptions from the Personnel Committee.
Well, we're ending the year with 4 new job descriptions, all provided by Pauline and Sue, all having to do with custodial positions. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following job descriptions for a custodial administrator, head building custodian, custodial inventory supervisor, and custodian, as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Kevin, discussion, questions? Yes.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
These jobs are, the responsibility is to maintain both the school and the town facilities, and they solely report to the superintendent of schools, correct?
Or the custodial.
To the custodial
Sorry, I didn't know what you
administrator.
were reading.
Like the custodial administrator.
Yes,
Correct,
report to me.
Reports to, okay.
correct.
Okay.
And the other positions report to the custodial administrator.
But technically, that says we're responsible for maintaining, the school department's responsible for maintaining the school and town facilities custodially, and that responsibility solely lies with the school department, with you.
Certainly if there are complaints in the public buildings, I will hear about it.
Rebecca?
I have heard about it.
We have a new position, custodial administrator, which Sue has kindly agreed to take on. I would imagine that Sue has plans eventually to check out a life outside of Cape Elizabeth.
No.
We won't allow that.
No.
Sorry.
Does this mean then that this could be a separate person from a community services director, assuming we don't have somebody who is as kind-hearted as Sue Weatherby is?
What we're doing at this point in time, and thank you to Sue for doing this at this point. We're in a transition process.
Yeah.
And so what we will be doing is she's doing this and seeing how this works now with the custodians. We'll be looking at the next step when Sue does decide to leave, how we'll do that, whether we'll go back to somebody who's full-time like we had, who also works, or whether it'll come out of the community services. We don't know yet. This is a real transition piece for us right now, and, because it has been a serious concern of mine for 2 years. And so we need to do this piece.
Just being compensated for this?
Yes.
So that compensation will exist at equal levels from this budget into the following budget? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? All in favor? 6-0.
Can I just take a minute on this Personnel Committee? I would like to thank Linda and the Personnel Committee. We are now at the stage where we have job descriptions for every person in this system except for 4 people. And we are working on those this summer, and they'll be ready for fall. As a superintendent, I cannot tell you what a relief that is to have those in place. Our next steps will be looking at evaluations for positions that are not teaching positions because we have a new teaching, fairly new teaching plan. But that will be the next step. But I, again, can't thank that committee enough for all the hard work they have done in order to make this happen. And it thrills me to open the job description book and find all of those fills. So I do want to know how much it is appreciated.
Well, as an added note, there's a lot of staff members, Alan's staff, that needs a lot of recognition for that because they are the ones who initially put all these job descriptions together and followed a very similar format, and we're very good at presenting a lot of the background information because just to sit down and read some of these job descriptions from a layperson's perspective, we needed a lot of explanations for a lot of things, especially from Dominic. And he was very patient and explained all of the little intricacies that were presented in the job description. So again, it is definitely twofold based on a lot of the administrators here at the district as well.
And it was a 2-year process, too. I mean, it's been 2 years before when we first started it, so.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And then this...
Start all over again.
Oh, no. And this stuff is all going on the website, too, so that...
They're approved, they go on.
As they go on, yeah, so...
They're all available to the public.
So if anybody from the public or anybody looking to have a job here, they can go in and see what the job will consist of, which is terrific.
When people call with questions or are interested in applying, I refer them to the website.
Oh, great.
If they want a more complete description of what the job is.
That's terrific. No surprises, right? Thank you, Linda.
Welcome.
Alan, consideration of a teacher request for 7-week leave of absence at the beginning of the 2007-8 school year.
Yes, you have a request in your packet from Natalie Edlund, who is a teacher at Pond Cove. She's currently expecting still, right? Okay. And what she's requesting is 7 weeks without pay from the time school opens until the last week in October.
I move that we approve, do we have to? Okay. That we approve Natalie Edlund's request for 7-week leave of absence, unpaid leave of absence.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Karen this time. She
okay.
She felt like seconding, so. Any discussion?
Can I just say that my son has been in Ms. Edlund's class, and not only is she an amazing teacher, but the fact that she taught as fully pregnant as she is.
That's why I asked the question.
Is really rather remarkable, and so I just want to officially and publicly thank her for being a wonderful teacher, and I'm glad she's coming back to continue to teach.
Great. Yes.
I would just, wish her the best of luck, and also, I'm assuming this would take place, but remembering what it was like being the parent of a second grader in those first few weeks of school, assume that we have a very detailed plan in place to hold the hands of not only the children, but the parents.
And the principal.
during that, I know that we've had some transition issues in the past, and I'm sure you're on top of it, but I just want to publicly say.
Very briefly, it was grade 2. It was at the very beginning of the year, and we got through it because we got a grade sub.
I know what you're talking about.
I was one of those parents, so I probably still am one of those parents as now the high school and the middle school principal would attest, but I was probably worse then, so.
Any other questions, comments? No? All in favor? 6-0. Consideration of a request from high school English teacher to continue part-time assignment. Alan?
Hannah Jones, you'll remember that I brought to you last year. She has had the opportunity to work on her writing career as well. What you approved last year and what she is requesting again is that she have a .6 position at the high school. I should mention to you that we do have somebody who has stepped in and is doing the other .4 position and is doing a tremendous job, and I haven't heard otherwise. I'm assuming he is still staying if this gets passed. So what I'm looking for is a .6 position for next year. After this year, then we are going to have to relook at that position. But I think to do it one more year is probably a wise move for all of us.
Do we have a limit on how, I mean, is there a...
You really don't by law, but my feeling is it should only be 2 years, and then a person has to make a decision of whether they're going to continue that, come back to the classroom or whatever. I think after you get past the second year, it gets more and more difficult.
Okay, thank you.
So that's me. I have to tell you, it's not law.
Right.
It's the way I would prefer to see it.
I didn't mean to ask my question before they... is there motion?
Move that we approve the continuing the .6 position for Hannah Jones at the high school.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Okay, all in favor? 6-0. Consideration of request from high school art teacher for change in work year. Alan?
This is from Mary Hart, who you remember a couple of months ago reported to you on the art at Cape Elizabeth High School. What she is requesting now is that last spring she applied for and was accepted as an artist in residence at the Southern Maine Community College. And obviously it's a wonderful opportunity for her, but I think it's also a wonderful opportunity for our students because she has a different level of learning through some of that as well. So what she is asking to do is that she continue at Cape Elizabeth High School for 25 hours per, 20 hours per, Jeff, I'm stuck on that. She is going to come back for a certain number of months. Is that correct? You're like I am.
She's currently half-time.
Yes.
But the way she structures her half-time is she doesn't work one semester and she works full-time the second semester. Now what she's proposing to do is to break it up differently so that she's part-time both semesters. Essentially if I remember this correctly, a 1/10 reduction in her current
It is from 5/10 to 4/10.
Yeah, and that 1/10 is picked up by a part-time position in the art department that we already have. That position would go from 1/5 to 3/10.
Gee, I'm glad.
Can you see why I had to go to Jeff for this? Because I've gone round and round and round on this. In other words, to make a long story short, it costs no extra money to the board. It will be covered by just a difference in the hours for the person we're hiring for the part-time position and with Mary Hart.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved. Because your loss is my gain.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. Is there a second? Oh, Trish, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm looking at Rebecca and it's Trish's.
So the current art class offerings will remain. It will not be changed. Okay.
Other questions, comments?
And Mary will have a much more comfortable office.
All in favor? 6-0. Thank you.
We're nice to our artists.
Consideration of superintendent's recommendation of teacher transfer to math teacher leader position at Pond Cove. Alan?
And this is the one, if you remember, Tom received a CEF grant, a one-year CEF grant, that has a teacher position in that. He's done some interviewing and is making a recommendation tonight that Deb Butterworth would be taking that math position. And Deb currently is a special education teacher at Pond Cove, and that then we'll be replacing her. And I haven't had a direct conversation with Dominic, because she's special ed, about that, but I think you're in that process of beginning to look at candidates. Am I correct? So Deb, for 1 year, will be doing this position. Obviously, it can be represented to CEF next year, and we'll make some decisions from there as far as if we can continue it up. But this is a 1-year position.
Okay.
Tom, did I do that correctly? Okay.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. Trish, did you want to second it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Discussion, comments, questions? Yes, Rebecca?
What about the half-time math teacher position that we approved in the budget?
What I had understood through the budget process and the discussions from Tom is that position is still needed. It isn't covered by the C position. But I'd
Right.
ask Tom to speak to that. He has a better sense of that than I do.
The new position, the math lead teachers, is concentrating in K through 2, and we want to retain the remedial position for grades 3 and 4. That's the halftime one.
3 and 4.
And that position is still open?
No.
No.
No, I thought you were asking about the budget process. We
I
kept
know what
that.
you're at. Let
The
me
point
fill
five
you in.
remedial.
What it is open in a way. We still have the issue of ELL and how we're going to do the full-time ELL and that math position.
Right.
I'm still working on that piece of the puzzle to get that
Okay.
settled, but we'll have both of those positions covered when we finish up with that. I just understood what you were asking.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? No?
The only other thing that I would comment on, and when Rebecca asked that question, it made me think of it. I know one of the questions that Rebecca asked when we talked about that grant is that grant for CEF, the understanding of that grant is supply support. It's getting very late here. Supply support for students, both low-performing students as well as high-performing students and even gifted students, so that Deb will be looking at all areas of that. And I remember, the reason I think of that is because I remember you asked that question very specifically, Rebecca, at a board meeting, and whether we would cover that as well. You don't remember, I do. And so just so that it is understood that this person will be overseeing a fairly broad spectrum of students. We're dying fast.
Yeah, I know. Any other comments? All in favor? Kevin, did you raise your hand? I'm sorry. Opposed?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm in favor.
You're in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, 6-0. Thank you. Policies for first reading. Trish?
Okay, first I have to thank the extracurricular committee for all their work, because a lot of the policies that we're presenting tonight are thanks in part to their efforts. First, DFD-R, gate receipts and admissions regulation, is actually a guideline. So technically, we don't need to approve it. It supports policy DFD, which we approved in May. So the policy committee would certainly accept any comments on editing this, but I don't think technically we need a vote to approve it. So I would welcome any comments people have on this guideline. Policy DID. This, thanks to Pauline, who recombined ED, which is materials management, into this policy, which is DID, and deals with inventory. JJI, athletic policy, philosophy, and belief. The extracurricular committee spent a lot of time on this. They looked at, MSMA had sent out some suggested changes. They compared that to ours, and they're recommending that our policy stay as is, with the addition of the athletic department flow chart that follows along with that.
Update. This is an updated flow chart.
An updated flow chart, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question on that? Page 2, when it talks about, sort of describes middle school, freshman, junior varsity, I'm assuming varsity on the top. Cuts may be based on the varsity level, on numbers, skill level, or other attributes. I'm just curious as to what the other attributes, unfortunately, Keith is now gone. Do you know?
I believe they're talking about attitude and team spirit and...
Would you like that
as well as
defined?
acceptable grades.
We
I
can
just-
specify that. If that's a comment, we can
Right.
certainly take it
Yeah,
back.
I would
Certainly
actually
a
like it
first reading.
specified, because
Certainly.
that sort of leaves it, it seems like it could be very subjective.
Yep, that's certainly something. That's the benefit, that's what we want to
No,
do in the first
that's
reading. Specify other attributes. Okay. The next policy is KF, community use of school facilities. Again, this was updated with recommendations from the extracurricular committee. And KF, guidelines for use of the turf field for school activities. We spent a lot of time talking about this, looked at other communities, spoke with Charlotte Bates at MSMA, who happened to be on the Scarborough School Committee, or school board at one point. They had these guidelines as administrative guidelines, not school board guidelines, which is part of the reason why Keith was here tonight, which was he was in compliance with these guidelines. So I think we're recommending that they are not, I mean, I guess
Coded as a policy.
they're not
Correct.
presented as a policy per se, but more as an informational purpose. Other than the comments, or I guess I would welcome any comments or suggestions on any of these. If you could, the policy committee is not meeting until September, but certainly please forward any suggestions or questions that you may have, and we would like to present these for a second reading in September, October, I guess.
Thanks, Trish. Consideration of superintendent's recommendations to I can say it, co-curricular fee position for 2007-2008.
I have some fairly long lists. Normally, when I've done these, I've done the whole list, and then you act on it from there. I just need to be sure, is that how you want me to do it, or do you want me to do them individually? There's 2 pages of middle school, and there's 1 page of the high school.
I would prefer you do the whole, I mean, not read each list, but, I mean, not read every part of the list, but.
Maybe by school? Can we do it by school?
Is that okay? So I guess the question that I think I heard Karen say, normally what I do is read the list. So I'll go down through the list, we'll do the whole list at once?
No.
Or do you want to just vote on it as it is listed?
Vote on it as is listed. Right. Please.
I can tell you're getting as tired as I am.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendations for co-curricular fee positions for 2007-08, as well as the superintendent's recommendations to athletic fee positions for fall 2007.
Well, you lost me on that one, Kev.
I move that we adopt
Co-curricular
K and L.
K and L, okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca.
In one motion.
Okay, so you're taking all 4 pieces of, all 4
Pieces of paper in 1, 5.
I get it,
Goodness.
okay. And I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
You did, thank you, Rebecca.
That'd be Trish.
You did, thank you, Trish. Oh, great.
Erase to second.
Is there any discussion?
I have one question.
Yes.
Do we not have a department chair for math? Am I missing something?
You're looking at the high school one now?
Yes.
Just a minute, I have to sort them here.
Elaine Brownell is probably stepping down as the department chair, and we are speaking that there were a couple of applicants, and I have to...
Will they get a stipend?
Yes, absolutely. There are a number of positions
Thank you. You heard
Are not.
in my books.
that are not in that.
Okay.
It's not a complete contract. The ones that I wasn't sure about.
Just a question, why do we sometimes receive the amount of the stipend on some of this, and sometimes we do not?
It's a good question, and I honestly can't answer. I think it's just the way they are submitted. I think if the board would prefer to have them with the amount of stipend, that I can ask that that be done from now on. I do think it's good, it's a good piece of information for you, so that you get it like this,
Right.
with all of the information.
Good point.
And
Go
just
ahead.
one really quick question. I know we're in the process of doing evaluations. I'm assuming all these that are being recommended for positions again have been satisfactorily evaluated?
And I look to my principals for that.
And that would be including the athletic? Okay.
And all of the athletic positions that are listed here that are asking for approval are ones that we had last year as well, correct? There are no new added coaching positions on here
For high school,
for high school.
I think these are all returning fall coaches, it says at the top.
Okay.
I don't think she's asking if they're new coaches, she's asking if...
I'm asking if
They're all...
if it's a new, if it's something that,
No new
okay.
position. They'd have to be negotiated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All in favor? 6-0. Okay. Consideration of proposal to grant the superintendent authority to hire over the summer. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Well.
Which one gets the motion?
Trish got the motion.
Pick one, Mary.
Pick a name.
Trish's name's short.
No discussion.
Trish's name is
Any
short.
discussion? All in favor? 6-0. That's good, Alan. You see, you put that on the end and you get what you want, right? Okay.
Remember that next time.
We're moving on to committee reports. I would suggest that we be brief. Does anybody have a problem with being brief? No. Okay. Finance Committee, Rebecca.
No. I'll be handling finance.
Oh,
This week.
Linda.
Yeah. I was the only committee member at the Finance Committee meeting that was held on May 23rd. The committee reviewed and signed warrants. We also started to take a very close review of the food service program. Alan and Pauline are working on some options to try and make that portion of our budget a little more efficient. We also reviewed the energy report, and we appear to be in good shape for the end of the year. And we're continuing discussions on other energy-saving items that we might have installed in the buildings.
Thank you. Linda. Policy Committee, Trish.
The Policy Committee has met twice since the last meeting. Most of what we talked about were the policies that we've already voted on. A couple policies that were still in discussion are the honor roll. We spent a lot of time looking at that. We've not come to a conclusion. A parent approached us about switching to a 10-point rating system. We also talked a little bit about student placement, bullying and dress code. We've decided that all required a little more research and data collection, so no action is recommended at this point.
Thank you, Trish. Communication, Trish.
Yeah, we met in May. On May 14th, we reviewed the view. We talked about ideas for next year. We discussed publicity and communication around the budget and how to improve for next year. And we sort of took a few time to review the committee's achievements versus the goals and how better to communicate our work. One of these is probably something that I should be doing. We did talk about how better to communicate to staff what policies are passed and then get onto the website. So probably what I need to put on my to-do list is a summary list of all the policies that we've done for this year and have that distributed. We will need a new Pond Cove rep, Tom. And we have no meeting scheduled at this point. We'll meet again in September sometime.
Thank you, Trish. Personnel, Linda.
Personnel Committee met on May 17th. We reviewed the job descriptions as were presented earlier this evening. We also got updated at that time as far as negotiations for different groups throughout the districts, including ed techs, secretaries, as well as custodians, bus drivers, and food service personnel. And at that time, we're waiting to hear back from those groups before negotiations will continue. Our next meeting is this Thursday at 8 o'clock at the Jordan Conference Room.
Thank you, Linda. Strategic Planning Committee, Trish?
Yeah, I actually failed to mention that the next policy committee meeting is Tuesday, September 18th at 12 noon. I apologize for that. Strategic planning, we spent a lot of time on the goals. We've already talked about that. And at our last meeting, which was June 4th, we started to look at action committee, what the next step is, what the timeline is, what action committees are needed, and sort of how to incorporate the knowledge and pertinent work that's already been done in the current future direction plan into the new one. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 28th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Trish. Student Extracurricular Committee, Linda?
Our May meeting was canceled due to several people it was conflicting with their schedules. Prior to that, we finished up a lot of the policies that were presented earlier this evening. There may be a chance this summer for us to get together one more time, depending on any policies related to the turf field.
Thanks, Linda. Wellness Committee, now Rebecca.
We met on June 4th, and it was actually an exciting meeting for wellness, as far as wellness can be exciting. We got to the point where we're getting into some real initiatives, and the first one we experienced this week, which was Walk to School Day, and it went off without a hitch. It seemed to be a very good event. Most kids that I spoke to enjoyed it. They're a little puzzled as to why they were doing it, but they liked it. And we look forward to having more of those next year. Sue Weatherby will be working on walk or bike to school days on a regular basis and what that might involve. Other things that the committee will be looking at is Harvest Week, working with local farms for local produce in our lunch programs. Something called PAC, which is Pack Assorted Colors Kids, which is fruits and vegetables for the week of September 24th and 28th. And we will be contacting the organization Let's Go to help formulate some next steps on looking at our food service program here in Cape Elizabeth, and also coming up with a local 5210 resource kit for elementary school activities. We do not have another meeting established yet, but we will be doing it sometime in September.
Thank you, Rebecca. Kevin, did you want to report something on paths?
Only that I believe it was May 18th ended their school year with graduation, and that also ended my formal relationship with PASS. Unfortunately, taking the action I've taken with this board disqualifies me as representative to PASS. So we will be needing a new PASS representative come September.
Thank you, Kevin. Rebecca, Legislative Liaison? Nothing?
We already talked about consolidation.
Technology Committee, Linda?
Believe it or not, we have yet another meeting to go to on 6/20, and we will be finishing up the revised technology plan for submission prior to the end of the month. And you can always visit it on the Cape Elizabeth School website. The draft of the plan is out there for anyone to view.
Thank you. Karen, report on SEAF?
Yes, I just want to let everyone know I had the pleasure of participating in the spring grant process for SEAF, and they received 8 applications, none of which were denied completely, and awarded a total of over $25,000, including such things as the Pond Cove greening, the middle school project projection technology, support for photometric imaging of space phenomena in the high school. So they were being supportive of some very exciting things. They also approved 2 large impact grants, a professional development grant to pay for 8 teachers to attend a 5-day institute focusing on instructional philosophy of Mel Levine, and also the Pond Cove grant for a math lead teacher to focus and strengthen math instruction at Pond Cove. So I just want to extend our thanks to C from the school board for the supportive role they play in helping us achieve excellence in our schools.
Thank you, Karen. Public comment? I know you're public, but I just thought I'd ask anyway. School board agenda requests? Okay, announcement of upcoming meetings. I know there are a few meetings were announced here, but I did want to mention that there's going to be a continental breakfast for all staff this Monday, June 18th, the last day of school. The school board is going to present a continental breakfast at each building to show appreciation to the staff, and I want to thank Trish for the idea and for spearheading, putting it together, and telling us all what to bring and where to be. Anything else? I know it's been a long night, but I think we got a lot done. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Everybody's second, okay. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.